Welcome back to the Clack Shack, and tonight I wanted to do another little quick how-to video. But before I go into this video, I just want to throw my waiver out there. I'm not by any chance a professional at this stuff. I learn as I go. I have no formal training. I have had my X tool for going on 8 months now, and I've learned a lot, picked up a lot of little tricks, I guess you could say. And I want to pass along some information. The issue that I'll be discussing tonight is I did some videos on some of my templates, and I've got a lot of newer folks that aren't comfortable with their machine yet. And the question that I keep getting, and by keep getting, I mean just today alone, I've probably had 10 or 12 people message me wanting to know what settings to use for this wood or for that wood, or what settings to use to cut this out. And I'm not one of those guys that's going to make fun of you because you don't know, because when I got mine, I didn't know either. So, but I'm going to go through my technique that I would recommend for new users to, especially on cuts, when you're getting ready to cut something, and kind of go through how I recommend, the way that I've gotten to where I do it now, and how I would recommend that you make that determination. So stick around for just a minute, and I'm going to get everything ready, and we'll get this video started. Okay, tonight I'm going to be showing you what I call, and I've caught myself using this term to other people, and they didn't have an idea of what I meant by it. And I'm not sure if I picked this up somewhere along the way in my research, or if this is just something that I came up with. I don't know where it came up with, but this is the technique, and I have named it the drop test, because that's what I do. I do a test. For tonight's experiment, I have a piece of cedar that I milled. It's some locally harvested cedar, so it's just I cut it on the sawmill. It's just a straight up piece of cedar. As you can see, the cedar is 8 millimeters thick. Okay, I have a piece of my old Luan that I used to get, which I really like this stuff, but my local store quit carrying it or was out of it or whatever. This stuff is 4.5 millimeters thick, and it's made of poplar. Poplar, if you don't know, is it's a wood that is commonly used in furniture and stuff. It's a really smooth sanding wood, and this Luan cuts pretty decent. And this is the latest stuff that my local store had, and this stuff is 4.8 millimeters thick. Now, you wouldn't think, and I'm not entirely sure it's because of the thickness, but the number of passes that this stuff takes versus the number of passes that this stuff takes is significantly greater. And I don't know what kind of wood this is. It didn't say, but now it is very stiff. It is very rugged, and it does a good job so far. It does take a little more to cut it. This stuff cut like butter before I got my air assist, and since I've got my air assist, I've been down to just a few sheets of this stuff, so I'm saving it for some of those projects that I have set for a 4.5 millimeter stock. And anything that's not stock particular, I'm using this 4.7 because I got a lot of it and I want to get rid of it. So tonight, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the thinnest material, and we're going to work our way up to the thicker material. And to do this drop test that I call it, all you really got to have is a small piece of whatever material it is that you're wanting to know how many passes or how to cut. And I recommend you use some spacers of some sort on your work bed. And the reason is the whole object of this test is to set up a cut and run it, and you count the revolutions that it goes around until the point where, as insinuated by the name, the piece drops out of the hole. Because when I first started doing lasering, I had a lot of those situations to where I'm, on the backside with an X-Acto knife trying to, touch up things and not using, before somebody starts yelling, if you'd use this other wood, it wouldn't do that. Okay, I understand that. But I can get this stuff in a 4x8 sheet for 25 bucks and make countless things out of it. It's an economical thing on my part. Yes, it takes a little longer, but it saves me money on the front end, which means more money in my pocket on the back end. So I stick with this stuff even though it's a little more stubborn to cut, and I've had really good luck with it. So what you'll know to do is get you some spacers, and I use these. These are little magnets that you can buy them on Amazon. And a matter of fact, these are a little rusty because I've had these forever. But let me get my little box here. Magnets. So I've got, spiders love it out here, by the way, guys. But this is what these things look like new. I mean, they're made for name tags. I use them when I'm doing wooden name tags. And you stick, the one piece sticks to the back of the piece that you cut and engrave. And then the other's a magnet that goes inside your shirt and holds that name tag on. But these are rusty, so those don't get put with a name tag, and those are the ones I use on my laser bed. So I've got 2 of those snapped together, and that's going to give me a little bit of a gap below my work material. And I just set it on top of there. But you want to space these out to where you're not right on top of them. You kind of want whatever you're going to cut, you want it out in the open so that it can drop. Because if it can't drop, then the test is not going to be effective. And it is hot in here again today, guys. The humidity is killing me. So if you get concerned about seeing the sweat rolling off of me, don't be concerned. It's okay. It's just really hot today. So I'm going to upleg my overlay, and I'll be using my camera for this to make it a little faster. I recently reconfigured everything, got the honeycomb squared, and kind of tweaked the way that I zeroed my camera. And I have gotten a lot better consistency out of this camera, and I am really digging it. So I'm going to go ahead. What I'm going to do is, I recommend, if you have an air assist, I'm going to be honest with you, I see a lot of people doing these cut tests, and for engraving, I agree that you want that. There's a lot of different shades that you can have, and you know, you can go from really dark to really light. And so for engraving, I do recommend you do a grid to get that sweet spot on your engraving and your color. But on cutting, let's face it, guys, it either cuts it or it doesn't. So I don't see the sense personally in doing a grid pattern. I know that my machine cuts clean and it cuts smooth. With air assist, I go as low as 5 millimeters per second. Without air assist, I run 7 millimeters per second. It seems to me, if you go any slower than that, the risk of fire is just too much. And if you do the math, yes, it takes more passes, but if you're going twice as fast and you do twice as many passes, in the long run, nobody's saving time by trying to do a one pass. All you're doing by trying to do a one pass is you're generating a whole lot of heat, and you're blowing it with a small amount of air pressure. And I don't know how many of you know what a bellows is, but a bellows is a device that you use to blow air on embers and on coals to try to get them to get hotter, to try to get a fire started. And so I just think extreme amounts of heat, blowing air, flammable substance, not a good mix. So I try not to go below 5 millimeters per second, even with my air assist. So I'm setting up a circle that's going to be cut in here, and I've got my speed set at 5 millimeters per second and my power at 100% output. Now, on this drop test, exaggerate. I'm going to run this thing, I'm going to set it for 10 passes. Even though I know it's not going to take 10 passes to cut this. I actually know how many it's going to take, but for the sake of the discussion, we're going to pretend that I don't. So I'm setting this cut at 5 millimeters per second, 100% output with the air assist, and I'm setting it for 10 passes. Now, what I'm gonna do, and this is where the name drop test comes from, is I'm gonna watch this laser, and I'm gonna count 1, 2, 3, until the piece drops. Whenever that piece drops, I'm gonna stop the laser because I don't need to see anything further. And that is how many cuts it takes, how many passes it takes to cut this material. Now, with that said, especially with this Luan and any wood that has knots or glue or anything like that, there are going to be those pieces that, you know, that setting may not work for. My recommendation, whatever your drop test says, whenever it drops, add one more rotation to it, that one more pass. And 95 to 96% of your cuts will come out clean no problems. Now, if you hit a knot like in this cedar here, if you hit that knot right there, it's not gonna cut through it. I can tell you that right now, because the density of this wood, just like if you can see right here where I cut this one out, that knot is on the back side of this piece of material. I cut this entire piece, but that one little piece of knot right there just whooped the X tool. I mean, it just hung right in there. So those are gonna happen with wood. Wood is not a man-made substance. It is not consistent throughout. It has hard spots and it has soft spots. So, and you're never gonna take enough precautions to effectively go through it every single time. But this works 95% of the time. So I've got it set up, 5 millimeters per second, 100% output. I got it at 10 passes. And I'm gonna go ahead and start this, and we'll see. Let me frame it first, because I do need to set my focus. So I'm gonna frame it so that it's over my workpiece here. Okay, focus is good. All right, and I'm gonna start this, and you can count along with me if you'd like, but I'm going to count the number of revolutions we make. Air assist and vacuum table are on. My money's on 4 passes, by the way, guys. All right, that's 1. It may do it in 3 with air assist. This it has definitely helped. That is 2 passes. Oh, okay. All right, as you can see, and here, the piece dropped out on 2 passes. So I would say that on this piece of wood, 3 passes would be adequate the majority of the time. So on my scrap piece of wood, I'm gonna do one more burn to confirm our findings here, because like I said, wood is not 100% consistent. So it dropped on 2 passes, maybe like 2.5. So I'm gonna set this one for 3 passes and see if I get a drop again. If it repeats itself twice, then I'm good. So I'm gonna move that circle over. Let me update my overlay here. I'm gonna move that circle over just to the right of where it was that time. I'm going to my cut, and I'm gonna change that to 3 passes, and I'm gonna start it again. So this time, I'm gonna go ahead and just test my setting, and I set it for 3 passes. Now this thing should rake right up against the edge of that other circle. Like I said, guys, I'm really digging my newly calibrated camera. Got the bed height raised up a little bit with the honeycomb, got everything dialed in and adjusted. And instead of using the smaller, like 4x8 sheet of paper to do my dial in, you know what I'm talking about, the polka dots, I'm actually using a full 8.5 by 11 or whatever it is. Oh, look at there. And she drops. So we have confirmed now twice that this particular wood will drop actually in about 2.5 passes, because I set that for 3. So I'm good with that. A little extra, not a problem. All right, and now one more little quick test right below the original circle. And we're gonna test this again and make sure if this drops on the 3rd pass, or actually 2.5 passes, I'm done with that. So now I know this material, these settings, 3 passes, and everything I cut should fall out smoothly. Doing it this way, it will definitely tell on you if you have any snags, because it won't let that thing fall until it is completely cut loose. There's no weight on that or anything, it's just the weight of the wood. So you've got to have a really smooth, really clean cut for that thing to drop. Okay, there we go. So now we know on that material, that's my setting. So I'm just gonna go ahead and stop that. Turn that air assist off, because man, that air assist gets angry when the wood's not underneath it. It gets angry. So that's what a drop test is. If you ever hear me say drop test, that's my drop test. 3 successful cuts. I've established that this wood will fall out at that power setting. So now I'm going to step it up. This is the 4.7, 4.8 millimeter stuff. I'm gonna move my little spacers over. Like I said, I just put my spacers under the edge because I'm just gonna bore right in the middle. I will be needing to redo my focus. I'm gonna go ahead and do that while it's over here, so I ain't gotta fool with that. All right, got my focus set. So now I just need to rehome. Same power settings, guys. When I'm doing cutting, I have a cut speed, and that's what I use. Other than, like, if I'm cutting wood. Now, if I'm cutting leather, of course, it's gonna be different, but if I'm cutting wood, it's either 5 millimeters per second with air assist or 7 millimeters per second without. And the only thing that changes is how many times I go around. So that's 2 passes. Oh, it's hot out here today. All right, starting to see a lot more light underneath it. That's 3 passes, and it drops. All right, so this one dropped at 3. I'm gonna go ahead and stop that because I don't need 10 passes. I recommend setting it at 10 passes because if you do get a stubborn piece, that way you'll know. But this one dropped at 3. So I'm gonna set this one, I'm gonna set it for 4 passes. Because on my drop test, it dropped at 3. So I'm gonna set this at 4. I'm gonna move my circle down. I'm gonna rehome because right now my machine doesn't know where it's at because I hit the stop button. Notice the smooth move over, no slapping, no jumping, no cables binding or belt slipping. That's what I like. Slow your transport speed down. All right, so we're gonna go this time. Same settings. I've got 5 millimeters per second, 100% power output. I set this one for 4 passes, and it'll be just below that circle there. So we're gonna go ahead and knock this one out. And this is the 4.7 millimeter Luan that you know, doesn't cut straight and looks crappy when you cut it and everything, depending on who you listen to. This is that crappy wood. Now I will say, this stuff is not for the faint of heart. It's not gonna cut the same every single time. It's wood, and wood trees are all different based on species. They're different based on the conditions in which they were raised. They're different based on the conditions in which the wood was treated. The glue, you know, different glues have different characteristics. I mean, there's a lot of variables, but this is how I find out what power I want to use to do my cuts and stuff. I've got this one set to 4. The last one dropped on 3. And so I'm hoping that, yeah, it's starting to drop now, so it should fall out by the time it makes it all the way around. Yeah, that one didn't fall all the way out of the hole, but I mean, it literally cocked sideways and caught itself. So that was good. All right, one more run, guys, and we're gonna call that one done. Not gonna bore you with the framing or anything. Just gonna go straight up into the cut. Like I said, 4 millimeters per second. I did not change my power output. It's 100% power, 5 millimeters per second. The only variable when I'm cutting is how many laps. How many laps does it take? So that's what you try to determine doing this. And like I said, if the name drop test has ever been used, let me know where it came from, because maybe I heard it somewhere in my research, but I just called it that because that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm doing a test to see when it drops. And whenever it drops, add 1 rotation or revolution or pass or whatever you want to refer to it as, and run that, and I'm telling you, 95% of the time, it'll work perfect. Now, if you see a knot on a piece of wood, try to avoid that with your cut line, because they will mess you up. Okay, that one didn't want to drop, but it's cut. This stuff, that's one of those inconsistencies I was telling you about. There's a little something that was holding it. I don't know if maybe the wood just got hot, expanded. But I mean, it cut clean, so I'm not sure what was holding it in there. But something was, but it fell right out. But I don't see any uncut wood, so I think we're good on that. It may have got hot and the wood expanded or something. I don't know. All right, so I got those cut. So now we're gonna go up and Whew, geez, guys, I've lost about a pound since we started this video in sweat. All right, so we'll go in this wood and just remind everybody, this is 8mm cedar right here. So this is some thick stuff. Now I will tell you, that knot and the little bit of wood around that knot and the wood around that knot, if we go through that, it's not gonna cut it all the way like it will the rest of the wood. And I may even try to work that in to where you can see what happens. I got my little piece of wood on there. I'm going to update my overlay, move my circle into the center, and this is going to be just to the left of that knot. So there's a chance that some of that wood in that little shaded line that you see could be hard enough to cause us an issue. But I'm hoping it won't, but if it does, then if nothing else, we will be able to show you one more thing to consider. So I should probably intentionally hit it just to show you, but I'm gonna try to stay to the left of it. All right, so I'm going back to my cut. I'm gonna be drop testing this cedar, so I'm gonna run my passes up to 10 because we don't know how many passes it's gonna take. And start. And cedar does smoke a lot. I know it's hard to tell with my table on because I've got my table set up now. I've actually got my vacuum directed under the honeycomb. So when that smoke goes through the honeycomb, it sucks it straight out of the bottom. The old design with that solid sheet of steel, the smoke had to make its way to the edge and then it got sucked down. But I've modified it now to where the vacuum is actually coming from underneath the honeycomb, and it sucks that stuff right down usually, unless I got the fans going, then sometimes it gets away from it. And I haven't been paying attention to how many passes that is, guys. I'm gonna say it's probably gonna take about 7 for that to drop. Will it tell me how many passes it is? So this is a total of 10 passes. Worst case, we just wait until it drops and then count to the end. I hear it crackling. Means it's trying to give up. And like I said, that little streak of dark colored wood right there, near that knot, that stuff can be quite challenging to cut through. So it may not cut all the way through that piece. We may have to move over and get away from that knot even further. But this is this is a piece I cut out of that beef feeder I made yesterday. Oh boy, that knot is really hanging in there. The left side of it has actually raised up, so it's cut. It's just that knot hanging in there. Wow. Good example of how bad a knot can really mess your cut up. And if you look at the back side, that is what I was referring to, is that wood around that knot is not giving up. And you can see that that's the only little piece of wood that was holding, is that little piece of knot right there. I mean, those knots are definitely an obstacle that you will have to overcome. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here away from the knots this time. Update my overlay, make sure, ooh, yeah, good thing I did that. All right, going down below that knot, I'm gonna try to get in this clean, clear wood right here. That way we don't have the obstacle of that knot to deal with. And I'm gonna try to make sure I count this time. Guys, I am losing weight by the minute. 1, 2, 2. Getting a good bit of light under the bottom, so we're getting close. 3. I'm thinking it's going to take 4, guys, on the softer wood here. 4. Okay, it just dropped. It may not fall all the way out because of the width of that piece, the thickness of that piece, but this is coming up on the 5th pass right here. There you go. So we're looking at 5 until it drops. So I'm going to move my circle to the other side, trying to avoid any knots. I'm going to rehome. Whew, Lord. I think I'm in the market for an air conditioner, guys. It's getting a little ridiculous out here. All right, so I'm gonna try to go like right in here away from the knots this time. Using the camera only, so let's see what happens. The camera's a nice addition, guys, and there's a bunch of options out there, but I'm really digging the one I got set up right now. All right, that's 1 pass. Two. 3, and we should be coming up on the drop on number 4. I see it starting to settle a little bit, so it should be getting close. And that is 4. So that one dropped on 4. So I would probably, just to be cautious, I'd probably run 5. That way you've got that extra one in case you hit a stubborn but not quite that stubborn piece of wood. But as you can see, those are really clean cuts. Not a whole lot of charring. And I mean, you got a little black on it, but not much. And it doesn't get much cleaner than that as far as the cut goes. I got no smoke damage on either side of the material. But that is what I refer to as a drop test, guys. So give me just a second, I'm gonna reconfigure the camera. All right, guys, I've lost about, I don't know, at least a couple of pounds in sweat. And I just, like I said, I had a few people message me. They downloaded the jig files and we're trying to cut them, and we're having some questions. And by no means do I think, you know, having questions, that it doesn't make you an idiot, it doesn't make you stupid. And I mean, everybody's got to start somewhere. I hope that this helps you figure out what works for you. Like I said, do your research. Don't take my word for it. If you want to do the cut test, that's fine. I mean, more power to you, but just understand that some materials, if you go too slow, they're going to catch on fire. I have been cutting Luan, I cut maple, I cut hickory, I cut black walnut. I've cut almost every wood that you can think of. I've cut pine, cypress, magnolia. And the one thing that I have found that is, as long as I stay above 5 millimeters per second, which is to keep that laser moving, I haven't had any flame ups or anything like that. Now, early on, I tried some of the little cut tests, and I'm just like some of you. You're doing the cut test and you look over, and you know that really slow 100% one at 2 millimeters or 1 millimeter per second. You look over and the thing looks like a charcoal brick, and it's slowly spreading across a piece of wood. I've been there, and that's when I quit doing it, because I got a lot of money invested in my shop, and I don't want a fire to get out of hand. Now, hopefully, you know, I would catch it. I try not to leave my machine unattended, but there are those times that I have to, and so that would be my recommendation, is do this. And whenever it drops, just add 1 It makes it simple. If you're running air assist, I'd run 5 millimeters per second. I haven't had any flame ups or any problems doing that. If you're not running air assist, I'd run 7 millimeters per second. And to me, I see some of my pieces that I cut out, and I see some that other people do. At the faster speed, it seems that you get a lot less charring and a lot less smoke damage too. I mean, even with the air assist, if you go too slow, you're still going to see a little bit of residue around that cut. So those are my recommendations, and I hope this video helps somebody, because I definitely sweated for you today. So if you were one of those folks that messaged me about power settings, I hope this helps you. I hope it makes your hobby a little more enjoyable, safer, because hopefully you won't burn your house down trying to figure out what the settings are, and a little more fun, and you don't have to waste all the materials to try to figure it out. All you really need is a couple of inch square piece of the material, test it, and then just go. I mean, there may be times that you have to break out the X-Acto or the box cutter to finish one out if you run into a knot or some of that stubborn plywood glue. But I would say if you do this and you add 1 to your pass count, 95% of the time, unless it's just a big massive knot that you should have seen, you should make it through. So I hope you liked the video. Hit the subscribe button and feel free to comment. Let me know if this is helpful. And I promise you, I am researching air conditioning units already. It's just a matter of figuring out which one I want and getting the money and getting the thing put in. So thanks for stopping by, and have a good day.